This is a blue-tongued skink. Blue-tongued skinks comprise the Australasian genus Tiliqua, which contains some of the largest members of the skink family. They are commonly called blue-tongued lizards or simply blue-tongues in Australia. What the large blue tongue does is it serves as a bluff warning to potential enemies to make them think that it's either sick or poisonous. The one you see here is named George, and it's a blue-tongued skink that lives at the San Bernardino Natural History Museum. As with many larger reptiles, you can easily see it breathing. George here is a very domesticated, docile blue-tongued skink, and as you can see, he doesn't mind everyone just petting him. All sorts of strangers, kids, me for instance. Blue-tongued skinks have these short, stubby arms that look like a human baby's arms. The rear ones have dark, black portions to the scales, pigmentation in them, while the front legs are mostly gray, I would say. One thing I've noticed is that, like cats, they tend to stick out their tongue and lick their lips more when you're petting them.
Just going for the lizards on my shirt.
Most species of blue-tongued skinks are diurnal, ground-foraging omnivores, feeding on a wide variety of insects, gastropods, flowers, fruits, and berries, although this one is fed canned dog food at the museum. Blue-tongued skinks sneeze a lot to clear out their nostrils because they use their noses a lot for scooping, pushing, and digging. They're constant burrowers. They also tend to wheeze a lot after a big meal, or breathe heavier. George came over to my shirt, which has 3 lizards printed on it, but they're not very graphically rich, so they're just, abstract representations of lizards in 2 dimensions on a shirt. So, I'm not sure whether he was actually genuinely interested in those depictions or whether he just liked my smell and, wanted to hide under my arm. Blue-tongued skinks shed their skin every once in a while, and prior to the shedding, the underbellies change color from brilliant orange to a cloudy, creamy white. So that means they'll begin shedding within 1 to 2 weeks, and the color regains its normal brilliant orange within 1 to 3 days prior of the actual shed. Like most skinks and lizards, blue-tailed skinks will lose their tails as a defense mechanism. That means you should never hold your blue-tongued skink by the tail or grab the tail if it's trying to get away, because then it'll shed its tail. It will regrow, cap off slightly, but it won't ever be as nice as the original. Blue-tongued skinks tend to accumulate dirt and dust in their ear holes, and to cope with this, they often shed these little bits of skin called ear bags that collect all the dust inside their ears. They're also cliff divers and tend to jump off high places without fear. So right now what George is doing is he's crawling towards this giant model plastic lizard. So I think George is intelligent enough to be attracted out of curiosity by things that appear to be lizards, only to soon realize that they're not actual lizards. I've never seen blue-tongued skinks run in the wild, so I don't know how fast they can move. George here seems to move at a glacial pace, but that could just be because he's not startled or he's very domesticated and conditioned to not having anything to do all day. This is the first time I've ever played with a blue-tongued skink. Having met George, I'm very charmed by the species. They seem very docile and somewhat intelligent, and not very spastic, all very good traits to have in a pet. The females are slightly bigger than the males, and up to 25 young can be born after developing in the mother's placenta for 150 days. The young typically disperse from the parents within days after birth in the wild. When threatened, blue tongues can make a loud hissing noise. As you might have surmised by now, they don't have much of a defense, lacking venom, and not moving particularly fast. These are one of the most common reptiles in eastern Australia.